This is the number 3,117. This is the number 6,000. And this is the number 25,000. What do these numbers have in common? These are the potential death tolls of protests in Iran as reported by the Iranian government and two other human rights groups respectively. Protests of this size pose a clear threat to the government of Iran, which has ruled since the overthrow of the Shah, Iran's former king, in 1979. The source of these protests may be economic, with food prices surging and inflation soaring. If I have $1, how many Iranian rials do I have? About 1.2 million, which is already up from roughly 40,000. And that brings us to this sector, the bazaar, an economic sector which has been historically sympathetic to the regime throughout its rule, but has now seemingly changed, potentially because having $1 equal 1.2 million of your currency makes trade a bit difficult. Moreover, over the past 50 years, the Iranian government has been a source of controversy, building partnerships with groups in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen, while simultaneously bumping up against rivals like Saudi Arabia, the other Gulf states, and most notably, the State of Israel. As Iran has lost its influence, however, some may question the ideology and the point of these relationships. Add to that Iran's leader, Ali Khamenei, who has no shortage of enemies in the lands west of his country. Despite all the enemies, economic issues, and protests though, Khamenei remains the top man in government as of writing. While there are no clear answers for why, hard power could be the key here. While the protesters have numbers, the security forces have weapons, and with the casualty numbers mentioned previously, the government remains in power. If you're a statesman in Washington, D.C., who prides himself on attacking Iran's nuclear sites,
Iran, the bully of the Middle East,
then you may have been excited to see the protests, but disappointed in their, so far at least, inability to topple the government. Maybe they just need a little help, a bombing raid perhaps, or a special forces operation, as you did in Venezuela just a month ago. This is a great opportunity to remove the troublesome regime once and for all, and cutting off a key ally for Russia and North Korea. So is attacking Iran a good idea? The thing is, America is not the only one who can attack. How can Iran respond? The problem is that America itself is not necessarily who will face the consequences of these attacks, but rather its allies. This is a map of American military bases across the Middle East, which leaders in Tehran have threatened to attack if the United States tries anything. As you can see, American allies like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates would be among the easiest targets to attack, without mentioning bases in other countries like Syria, Iraq, and of course, the State of Israel. This might be why the Gulf states in particular have not been very supportive of attack. Any more attacks could harm their plans for economic development and risk their reputation for stability, especially after the strikes in Qatar last year. Moreover, this is a map of oil in the Gulf region. From this area, much of the world's energy goes to Europe and East Asia, two of the biggest economic hubs on the planet. And in this area, an Iranian strike can do great damage to much of the world's energy, causing trouble for many people, especially the exporters of this oil. Even if the Iranian regime doesn't come out of the American attacks alive, they can still cause great damage for everyone. Leaders in Washington need to consider this, because they have been historically trusted to protect the Gulf, and if that trust is proven wrong, Arab leaders may seek cooperation with other countries, as Saudi Arabia did with Pakistan late last year. But this leads to another question. Can America prevent an Iranian attack on its allies? Earlier in June, when it was at war with the Israelis, Iran managed to inflict a significant amount of damage, but in the end, they failed to prevent a key factor: air superiority. It was the Israelis who established air superiority over Iran's skies, greatly limiting their enemy's offensive capabilities. In addition to this, the Iranian regime was unable to prevent several other things from happening, including cyber operations, electronic warfare, and secret on-the-ground operations. It's not out of the question that America and its allies have similar ideas to respond to an Iranian attack and mitigate any damage. This without mentioning American air defense systems deployed to the Gulf recently, including at Qatar's Al Udeid Air Base, which was targeted by Iran last June, albeit after warning. The goal. It's important to think of the goal. If your goal is to remove the regime in Iran and replace it with someone better, then the key would be to win the security forces who crack down on any dissent and are greatly aligned with the regime. Fissions within the regime itself are what can cause it to break down. This may be what happened in Venezuela, especially considering the former vice president's willingness to cooperate with the United States. But even then, breaking down a regime is one thing, and maintaining stability is another. If factions of the Iranian regime defect, their goal would have to be the establishment of a replacement government in collaboration with other factions in the nation. If such a faction seeks to secede, or if it fails to agree with the other factions, then stability may fail to be established. In 1979, the Islamists did take over the country, but they competed with the leftists. Over time though, the Islamist faction consolidated its rule, leading to the government that exists today. These are key considerations in the enmity between the governments of America and Iran. Before that, however, America and Iran weren't enemies. They were in fact allies.
The changes in Iran represent very genuine progress.
To learn more about their alliance, click on this video right now. Thank you for watching.